we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the Ware Finance Committee. It is February 11th, 2021. So in terms of agenda, we really originally only had one thing to discuss, which is the preamble, but there are there's definitely a few topics that I think that are related to the preamble. And so the goal for tonight would be for us to discuss, I don't want to say all of the variants, but we need to discuss the preamble and the relative deliberatives for the school has a direct impact on what we put. And so if we could just keep the conversations relative to how it affects us, we can chat about all the other nonsense separately, because I could see this easily getting convoluted.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Did you see James, his email? Because I actually was going to bring that up also.
Oh, yes. So thank you. But so basically what I was going to say is that the two things that I have to address is the preamble, but also those two articles and the counter statements. I forget the wording that we use, which James suggested, which for the folks of us that were at the town deliberative session, James kind of brought an interest in doing that. So I have zero issue addressing the blurbs for those. It's only relative to two articles.
Tom,
Chris has
we're not going to do minutes tonight. Is that correct?
We're gonna, Leah has been pretty sick and I wasn't putting any pressure on her. So we're skipping minutes for now. We'll get an update from her where she's at, but the last thing I wanted to do is pressure her for something that wasn't time sensitive. Let's put it that way.
Tom, you have to have minutes. It's required by statute.
Neil, maybe you're misunderstanding. We're not going to address the meetings tonight. We will have meetings and minutes and we will get them voted in.
I didn't understand. You said that there weren't going to be minutes. Did I misunderstand you?
We're not going to vote on minutes.
We're not going to, what Chris is asking, are we going to vote on minutes tonight? I'm sorry, she didn't ask the question. So
thank you.
I see the confusion. Sorry about that, Neil.
But that's a good point, and I'm not volunteering. Who's doing minutes then tonight?
Well, Leah is here, so we can just ask her if she's feeling okay. And
Yeah, I'm all set. I'm ready to go.
Great.
okay, so that's my mistake, because that isn't typically our number one agenda item, which is we're going to move those to the back of the bus, and we'll talk with Leah at the end of the meeting in regards to that.
I think I've got everything up to date. I think I only have one set to get over to you, and that's it. But we'll review it.
Okay. So we've got those two agenda items that I had on the list. Megan, am I missing anything? We got the blurbs and then those two articles to address the counterpoints.
Tom, did you also say that there was to be a discussion about what gets included in the mailer with respect to the schools as well?
Yeah, Neil, right, Neil, that's a good question. It's inevitably going to be part of this blurb for the preamble discussion. There's a few moving parts, and Megan's actually going to read a response. I had asked her, or we agreed that she was going to go directly to school about the Ware Town deliberative. And so, Neil, as part of that discussion, I assumed all of that will come up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're not forgetting, Neil. Don't worry.
We won't. So, the question is, do we want, and I'm pretty open to this, do we want to get into the bill's wording in the preamble right now, or do we want to address where we are with the schools, and that way whether we determine the wording? My gut says we address the school part first. Megan, have you read? Okay, would you mind, for the rest of the folks that weren't involved in that quick conversation at the town deliberative?
Yep, that's
what happened, and then read.
Okay, so we were told by Naomi at the town deliberative that the school was not going to be ready for her mail date for the mailer. So we were under the impression that the school would not be included in the town's mailer. So I went to Jackie to find out, okay, well, what are you doing going forward? Are we going to include our blurbs without your warrant article information to go with it, which that's going to be confusing, or are you going to put out your own mailer and you will include the finance committee's blurbs in that mailer. And I said that we prefer the second option, that they have their own mailer. When they do their own mailer, that they include the finance committee's blurbs in that, so that our recommendations could get out to the public, because how else will we do that? So her response was that hold on, trying to read my email. They are going to they're going to do their deliberative session on the 17th, and that they are planning on, they have worked out with Naomi that they are going to be included in the town mailer. So we have to have everything to the school by the morning of February 18th, the day following the deliberative session. So we'll have the deliberative session at 7:00 at night. And then by the next morning, we need to have, the school and us needs to have everything to Naomi so she can get it to the printer. She's worked it out with the printer so that the printer has agreed to extend them some grace and push back the deadline. So I asked her, because we've already voted on the school budget and we've heard from the school board meeting that there was this talk of a $25,000 cut. Are they thinking that there's going to be some material changes to their warrant articles that would warrant that we, the finance committee, would have to have a meeting after the deliberative session to revote, change wording of articles, or our blurbs, whatever it may be. And I'm going to read you her response. So the board will make a motion to cut the proposed budget by $25,000. We will access a newly awarded federal grant to fund the tech coordinator's position change. This means that the difference between the default and the proposed is a transportation contract of $68,000, the science, language, arts material of $6,800, and then there's about $18,000 of increases that are primarily salary benefits increases for employees, not in a collective bargaining unit, custodians, secretaries, administrators. And then she just said, and the deliberative session is happening at the Ware Middle School. It's going to be in the gym, and then there's going to be an overflow room in the music room, and then the cafeteria will be for those who don't want to wear masks. So that is where we are at right now. So the school deliberative session is Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the middle school. And we need to figure out a way when these changes happen that we can do, essentially, Tom and I spoke today, a vote Wednesday night.
So what Megan and I talked about is what topics we should be addressing tonight as a group. And this is the big one, which is the implication is we're making an assumption based on what Jackie told us that they will likely vote in this change, which is a material change. Might not be a lot, but it's $25,000. It's a material change. And I believe we have no choice but to vote if we can. I mean, if we don't get a quorum, then that's a whole other story. But that it translates into meeting after their deliberative session, which would probably be at 9:00. And I believe that's what she directly asked if we could do. The wording was confusing, but that's what it ultimately implied. They have the deliberative. Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So she said that the school board is meeting after deliberative, and that they have posted they're going to start at 8:30 p.m. And the one thing to note is that the school's deliberative session is not going to be live streamed.
So
She did say that, which I was a little shocked, but they're not live streaming it.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
It's the whole thing is it's not pretty, but unfortunately we can't affect it. At least we finally got some answers. And I believe, Megan, didn't you ask what the likeliness of the 72-hour being exercised was? I don't think you got an answer, right?
I didn't end up asking it because I don't know if she really knows.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I think I talked about doing it, and I just because we just heard back from her today. I didn't get a chance to write her back again to be like, so is he going to push it off of 72 hours? And like we discussed, we would probably know Monday or Tuesday if the moderator decides to push it off another 72 hours. And if he does, then at that point, we meet quickly and we decide to do with what to do with the preamble, and we go from there.
So if the rug gets pulled out and they do a 72-hour delay, and I think this question is going to involve Naomi's opinion, if that does happen, I don't want to predict every scenario. However, if that does happen, that means that none of the school articles go in the mailer, because that will be before your cutoff. Correct, Naomi?
So you're saying if they get to the 17th and want to do 72 hours more, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, then I can't. I've already begged a favor for the printer, and they
Yep.
largely are doing it, A, because we've done business there, and B, the mailer is typically shorter than last year's because we don't have as many articles on our side. So I pulled a favor, but that would be the last time. I have to get them back by March 1st.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on our understanding. Eileen just sent a note. 217 is tied to the ballot, which we were aware of, and she mentioned on Saturday. But that doesn't mean that Luke can't do what Luke has been doing. I mean, let's face it, Stark should be tied to the ballot too, and that's not happening until the spring. So we're going to move forward with.
Okay.
Okay, so they do not have the ability to postpone past that date because they voted to not follow the emergency order.
Okay.
But then he's still been postponing to this point, so. Thanks, Eileen. I believe that that's correct, but that doesn't mean they can't do it. I mean, they won't do it, excuse me. So we're going to move forward with the assumption.
Yeah.
We're going to move forward that the assumption is that it will happen on the 17th. If the board votes for this 25,000, then we're supposed to vote on the article and debate on that article again. So the question is to the committee that's here, do we all have the ability to do that if that's going to be at 9 o'clock on the 17th?
The only way you can do that fairly, Tom, is if you have a Zoom meeting of this committee after the time of after the school.
Oh, I'm sorry.
ends.
Megan said to mention that, and I still forgot. Yes, Neil, that's exactly what we're talking about. See, she
Excuse
knew.
me, Tom.
Yeah.
I trust you guys I would let you meet the next night, as long as I had it for the morning so I can electronically send it over. They needed the morning of the 19th.
Yeah, you might not have a quorum because I'll be in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. And
On
you know
the
how cell-
Thursday?
Yeah, you know how the cell signal is. I'm leaving Thursday morning. And
That's why
Okay.
we were saying Wednesday night.
Okay, well, I mean, I can hook something up with you Wednesday night. I'm happy to do that.
I'm not saying you guys can't have a meeting. Megan's more than competent. I'm more concerned about having a quorum.
Right, but I think without Zoom, you won't get a quorum, and I feel that I'll make myself available to a Zoom meeting if you guys want afterwards, however
So
long it is.
So to clarify, Tom and my plan was that we were going to set up a Zoom meeting now because we have to put it out there that we're having one and put the agenda out there, whatever. We were going to say, we're going to have a Zoom meeting, and then basically kind of whoever's at deliver session then goes home and we get on the Zoom meeting and we have a vote. Right, Tom? Is that what we're kind of
I'm
talking
in
about?
agreement, but I'd like to, Neil, I think Neil has a question, so let's.
Just so we understand, unless somebody raises a motion with respect to the school decision, the $25,000, unless somebody brings up a motion, then our recommendation stands.
Correct.
And let me just add one other thing which has been troubling me. The schools are apparently delaying things. How far they delay it is not clear. And it may turn out that they don't produce any kind of mailer to their audience, and they just hold voting day on whatever it is without a mailer. I'm somewhat cynical or skeptical that the effect of that would be to deny the voters the benefit of the Finance Committee's recommendations. And so I'm wondering whether to forestall that, we should put our recommendations with respect to both schools in this mailer, knowing that many people will retain the mailer for those other meetings. If we don't do that and the schools keep on shifting their dates, it may be, and don't put out a mailer, it may be that our recommendations with respect to the schools are never seen by the voters. And frankly, if I were on one of the school boards, that would be a bonus of delaying the meetings.
Chris?
May I, Tom?
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, go ahead. Chris said go first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh,
Two
well,
things. First
I
of
think-
all, oh, go ahead, Chris.
no, you go.
You sure? You want me to flip a coin? Okay, two things. First of all, I think that Bill's opening preamble here to the recommendations in the mailer sort of covers what Neil was saying, in that according to this, we are presenting, even though it's partial information, the school recommendations in the mailer. That's my understanding from reading that. The other question I had was for Megan, and that is, you said something else besides that 25,000. Was there something else that might come up that would reduce the Ware School Department taxable part of the budget? Something about a grant, or
So the $25,000 is being taken out because they're using the grant to pay for that $25,000.
okay, so that's all one. So
That's all one. It was just her explanation of why. It's not that they're not doing it. It's just they're using other funding for that expense.
yeah. So the only difference could be $25,000,
Correct. Yeah.
which is about 2.5 cents on the tax rate.
Unless somebody comes up and,
Yeah.
at the deliberative session and asks for something, like, we just don't know. And not to cut Chris off, but just to mention, Naomi has said that, back to Neil's thing, that they are not putting, the selectmen have decided not to put pre-deliberative blurbs in the mailer. So if John Stark hasn't had a deliberative session, their blurb wouldn't be there. So our blurb would have no explanation above of what we're actually talking about.
Didn't,
Chris was next, if you could.
oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Well, ditto what Tom said, and I do think Bill did a very good job of qualifying what our decisions were based upon. It's the information we had. All we have to do is put a date at the bottom of it, because he said something about the information that we have to date. And so if we date this and something changes after that, it's up to the voters to figure out that, yeah, it changed.
I guess I'm confused, Chris and Tom, both Toms. What is your assumption that is going to appear in the mailer? I assume that Bill's blurb or some variation of that will be in there, plus all of our recommendations for the town. Will there be any recommendations that we make for either school that will appear in the mailer?
So Neil, if I could, I'm going to let Bill speak, because to speak to your original point, and I do agree with the points that you're making. It's a good discussion, but let's hear Bill and then go right back to you. Okay?
Sure.
Bill?
My assumption based on the school information that was presented tonight is our blurbs will go out with some sort of preliminary information. It will also, the blurbs for the schools, for the school, the Ware schools will be included, because their warrant articles will be included, because we're going to have a Zoom session after they have their deliberative. So that loop will be closed. The town loop is already closed. The only outlier is the John Stark articles. We don't know what those articles will be, because the meeting's going to be in the spring. So we will have town and Ware schools buttoned up. I would encourage us, I believe Naomi had said, we're not going to put out draft warrant articles. I don't know if selectmen had made any kind of decision to say, no, we don't want the blurbs in there either. And I think that our preamble now does say it's based on the best information we have at the time. And that we'd really be talking about the John Stark schools, school budgets and warrant articles. The warrant articles wouldn't be in there, but our blurbs, our recommendations should still be included because the numbers are going to be in there for John Stark that we are going with in the table. So we got to say something, reference that. So I think our preamble now, where it says school recommendations are for draft warrant articles, we're going to have to adjust that slightly. It's going to be school recommendations for Ware and the town are clear, but school recommendations for John Stark are based on draft warrant articles. And we could.
Let's go. Thank you, Bill. Let's go back to Neil, and I'd like to make a point after Neil's talks to this. Neil, did that help? And
Yes, that clarified things greatly. Thank you.
okay, so my concern and what I'm hearing is if we're going to make comments in the preamble about the overall tax rate as it relates to the information we have, including John Stark, we are making comments about something that could very well change. And so I'm uncomfortable with it for that reason. And what I'm comfortable with is talking about what we know. And what we will know is the town warrants, and we will know the school warrants, assuming, but we won't know the Stark. So I have zero concern about mentioning how we came to conclusions and things of that sort in the preamble. But to talk about a tax rate about a number that doesn't actually have actual warrant articles, I believe that that's dangerous. Or I don't want to say misleading. It couldn't be a misperception, so to speak. And so
One thing, Tom, I don't think we're misleading it because if you look at the Stark warrant articles, the default budget and the proposed budget are within $1,500 of each other. So they're really, if they play around, we're already recommending the proposed budget. If they play around with it, I don't think they're going to add anything to it. I don't think anything's going to be done to the Stark budget, to be honest with you. But if they do make a change, it might reduce it, but we're still going to recommend the proposed budget. I don't, and whether they go with proposed or default is the same tax rate. So it's not going to change. The only other article is the teacher's contract extension, which I don't think that's going to change either. And then we do have the one where they want the unanticipated fund balance. I think we need to get that one out there, that it's a 13-0 vote. And the only thing they might do before then is remove it from consideration, which, fine, if we say no and they remove it, that's not going to have an impact. So I don't think we should be uncomfortable listing what we say about Stark, because I don't think it's going to mean a hill of beans one way or the other.
all right, so let's go in order because lots of people have things to say. So Nicole was next, then Chris, then Tom Clow.
So I know everybody doesn't, or they're not on the email blast from the town, but is that a possibility for Stark to have our blurbs go out, at least in that, as an option?
Or I mean,
I'm not
even
sure
could it go in the where in the world? I was thinking about that.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea too. Or both.
The problem with those is that the circulation of the flyer is vastly different and vastly superior in numbers to the ways that you folks are talking about. And it also affects demographics differently. There are some demographics that you're going to reach with those proposals, but others that you won't.
I think more people, this is Leah, sorry. I think that more people are connected than people may realize.
Yeah, I think so on the same question, right? So, and then we'll move to Chris on the next question. I do think that Neil makes a point. It's still not equal distribution, and we got to be careful. We can't make that assumption. Do I go and read Where in the World? I do. Yeah. And I go see it on Facebook and things, but it's a valid point. Well, I'm going to agree with Neil on that point. And let's go to Chris, who is next.
I think we have a problem with the tax table that Bill has created. if we take Stark out. So, because then we're in a way we're taking out a major component and it almost becomes misleading. If we leave Stark in, we have to asterisk it and say, these are approximate figures subject to change. And the more nuanced this thing gets, the more confusing it is going to be. So I think we have a real problem with this tax table. But I also think our voters want to know. And I think also in terms of Stark getting a flyer, it's not up to us. They changed their deliberative date, it's up to them. But for our committee, if we want accurate numbers, we have a dilemma with this table.
Thanks, Chris. Tom, you were next.
Yes, I'm in favor of including it with that asterisk that says that it is subject to change in some way, because particularly the Article 5 for the unassigned fund balance, which we voted overwhelmingly against, we're talking up to $489,000 there that could be used to offset the tax rate. So I think that getting that message included is important. So even though it could change, and we have to say that, I believe we should include the John Stark in our mailer. And I agree with Neil in that the circulation for something like Where in the World, even though if it's included, we're talking about, a solid circulation of maybe around 300 and then whatever appears on Facebook and so forth. So it certainly isn't equal to a mass mailing to every resident in town.
Thanks, Tom. Just for a point of clarification, Bill, when you were talking about us sending our blurbs, how do you think that would look? I mean, my concern is matching up the blurbs to the actual articles when they come out. So I'm just trying to think it through. Is there really a risk of people not connecting the two if there's no actual article, but there's a blurb about it? I don't know. It's only a few articles, so maybe not.
Well, they'll go to page 1 and it's the town articles, and they see for each article it has the selectmen's clarification or comments about it, and then our recommendation. Then they're going to go to Where Schools, and they're going to see that, and then they're going to flip a page, and it's going to say, John Stark. These are our pre-deliberative. There are 3 warrant articles. We don't list them, but one is for their operating budget. The second is for a teacher's contract extension. And the third one is for an unanticipated fund balance. And these are our recommendations based on their draft warrant articles.
Okay, that answers my question.
That's the best I can do. But otherwise, people are going to see what we're sending out. They're going to see, oh, there's nothing for John Stark, but they're going to see this table. It says John Stark, 750 if everything's rejected, 756. What does that mean?
Yep. I appreciate that. Bill, I was just trying to see what you envisioned. Thank you. And Tom was
just very quickly, if you look at the blurbs for John Stark, they really do explain what we're talking about when we make our recommendations. It tells for the budget, it tells the difference between the proposed and the default, and that gives a reason, but it also gives the difference. So there's enough there, I think, for the voters to understand. The same thing with the teacher's contract. It says in our blurb that it's $74,802 is what it's going to cost. And then the unassigned fund balance, again, it tells how much could be put toward it, and it tells our reason for not approving it. So I think there's enough there so that we're not leaving the voters cold in as far as what we're talking about when we make those recommendations.
So it sounds to me like the suggestions that you collectively made says that we keep blurb, the spirit of the blurb with some tweaking as is, but we insert asterisks which I happen to think Chris might personally think it's a great solution. And I think that addresses or helps address Neil's concern about the work that we've done not being seen. Am I hearing that correctly? It sounds like we've got a bit of a consensus here.
I think so.
I think so, Tom.
Okay.
In the start thing in the blurbs, I'm gonna sleep on it, but I think from what even Tom said, we might, how that 750 comes about, I can even put something in our blurb that says the impact on the tax rate for the proposed and default budgets is $7.50. And the impact on the tax rate for the teacher's contract is 6 cents. And then they can see and they can say, oh, that's how they get from 750 to 756. Because that's the only thing that's missing now. Because there won't be a warrant article there that says what the impact on the tax rate is.
Yeah. My concern is not, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Do we need a sentence just to say that John Stark's deliberative session will finalize the language to be printed on the ballot, just so they know why the language isn't in there? Because they'll see the recommendations, but they won't see the articles.
Well, we just say they're draft warrant articles. That's why they can't
Yeah,
be included.
if we say that, I think that would be a very good idea.
Well, that would go in a little second preamble before the John Stark blurbs.
If I could, I'd like to call on Naomi to to confirm that what Bill is suggesting can happen. I don't remember who owns what. Do we own the all of our blurbs, or is because
I
it's warrant
apologize,
article
I've been texting back and forth with the fire chief for something that's going on.
Oh, geez.
So
You
can
wanna
you just, so
summarize?
you're asking me that we can, this is where I'm thinking. You guys have done so much work and I totally appreciate it. I'm, displeased like everybody as to what's going on, but I truly think that what I do with a mailer goes for every door delivery. We put out 3,800 pieces. I think it's worthwhile to include the finance committee part of John Stark, and the Ware School and the towns would be included anyway. I just think that's the fair way of doing it, because I really don't, in speaking with them, I don't think their thought was maybe through their website. I don't think they're going to incur extra costs for a mailer. And I feel we owe it, and as a taxpayer and sitting on the town side and paying for the mailer, I think we should put everything we can out there and let the people decide. So instead of that section, instead of it breaks down the town, then the Ware, and in John Stark, we can make a statement at the beginning to let them know that deliberative session will be April 5th, and they're expecting to vote May 11th, but the recommendations from the finance committee that have been worked on, and we can kind of briefly, like the budget, the articles, and I think you guys' explanation is really very good, so people could figure that out. But I really think that I would be remiss in not allowing you to put that in there for everybody to know about.
All right, thank you.
May I ask Naomi a question?
Absolutely.
Naomi, could you repeat what the selectman said about not printing, let's call it preliminary warrant articles that Stark has?
Yeah, so what we talked about, Neil, as much as everybody, they take that mailer with them, and our fear is if we put the pre-deliberative articles in there and they change at deliberative, or they're not even there, the uproar it concerns people is that the town is not being transparent. We've put stuff out there that's not true. So that's where we felt that we wouldn't put the pre-deliberative article in there. We could put, the operating budget, the contract, and something else to identify it, because the article numbers are there. But I was not going to put the wording down in case it changed April 5th and then goes to vote April 11th, and then we're accused of not being transparent, and we've, blindsided them and all these other things. The accusations just go on. And I just feel that we weren't going to go into that with the wording specifically for the articles.
And that would be the case even if you put after each article, subject, this is as of today, subject to change at the April whatever deliberative session?
The idea was because some people don't read all the way to the bottom, that, I understand your point, Neil, but I would hate to just put dollar amounts in that don't end up being what appears on the ballot, and then it's my fault.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom.
We could, Bill suggested like a preamble to our recommendations for John Stark. In that, we could make reference to the SAU website for the complete details of the John Stark budget prior to the deliberative session. So it would mean that we wouldn't have to print it in the mailer, but we would make reference to it. And, it's certainly public information anyways, whether we chose to print it or not. But if we're not going to, I think making that reference gives people a direct link to the articles themselves, as well as the, I think, very clear explanation in our blurbs as to why and what it's all about.
So Tom, just to clarify, I think what you're saying is put that link right above our blurbs for Stark
Right.
on that blank page.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Does anybody have any issue or concern with doing that?
I think it's good, and put the meeting date as Naomi suggested.
Yeah, right. And so what this does is, for anybody, I have a challenge with the SAU's website. So I think putting the link there, especially, I don't know why I always have a challenge. So I can't be the only one. So I love the idea of Bill.
You're not.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a great solution. What I'd like to do now is, we've had a little bit of discussion. I know that a couple people kind of gave some input. I read emails today, but it's hard when you're trying to work during the day. So I want to read Bill's blurb, unless he wants to read it, which I highly doubt.
Is that me?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll read.
I can, because I've just pen and ink to reflect the where thing. Let me read it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I apologize to Chris. I didn't get any of her suggestions in there because I was sending out an email the same time hers was inbound, but I did get Tom's in there, I think. So anyway, here goes. This has proven to be a challenging year due to COVID and its impact on school and town election cycles. This report contains the Finance Committee's recommendations based on the most complete information available at time of publication. Town and where school recommendations are for the warrant articles as approved at their 6 February and 17 February deliberative sessions. John Stark school recommendations are for draft warrant articles to be presented at their deliberative sessions. At their deliberative session, I could say there on 5 April, tentatively scheduled for 5 April. While the school articles are while John Stark articles are subject to change, the committee believed it was important to include the best available information in order to provide a more complete picture of total tax impacts. No matter how we vote, whereas property taxes will potentially increase significantly this year. Increased school and town costs to fund pensions combined with projected reduced revenues have placed an increased demand on taxes. The projected revenues used by the town and school districts in developing their budgets are conservative. Therefore, the tax impact projections present a worst case scenario for tax increases. If revenues exceed projections, the tax impact will be reduced. In addition, the Board of Selectmen has the ability to use money from the town fund balance to reduce the tax rate, which they have done in the past. Also, any surplus in the Ware and John Stark school budgets automatically goes to offset taxes the following year. These actions would significantly reduce the tax impact outlined below. And the following table outlines the tax impact if all articles are approved, if all articles are rejected, and if the Finance Committee recommendations are approved. In all cases, state and county taxes have not been included, which in 2020 added $3.18 to the tax rate.
Bill, just a real quick question. Where would you insert the asterisks? Would you just put it like next to where Stark? Stark's.
On the table, I'm sorry, we've got the double asterisk, which talks about that state and county tax being excluded. I've got a single asterisk now on all 3 of the John Stark, the 750, the 756, and the 756. And I've got a single asterisk below that says Stark rates are estimates based on draft warrant articles.
Okay, so for any of the folks like myself that are super visual, is that in a form that you can just email to me that I can share with everybody on the screen?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah, yeah. Is that ready? Can you shoot it to me in an email so I can?
I can't during the meeting. I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because my challenge here is we can, our plan was to finalize what we were gonna have this evening,
I
and
can't.
I'm not sure I can see it in my head. Although it sounds good.
You can't do what you did last time?
Well, I can. If Naomi wants to give me share, I'll insert what you have. I just don't have share permission yet. Naomi, I put it in the text a little while ago. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you give me share permission? Sorry. There we go. I've had it up, but apparently I'm the only one looking at it. So, Bill, I'm perfectly fine putting in the words that you've changed here. I started to do it.
Okay.
Give me a quick second here to
You
do
want me
this.
I'll tell you where they are.
Yeah, but one moment, please. I'm going to turn on track changes because this will allow everybody to see exactly what I'm changing. So I believe the first change was here on this line.
It was on line 3, town and where school
Got it.
recommendation.
And where schools recommendations are for the warrant articles as approved at the February, at the 6th.
At their 6 February and 17 February deliberative sessions.
So I put that their 6th February. Is that that's not proper wording. How about February 6th?
Yeah, however, or
At their February 6th and 17th deliberative session with an S. That's correct, I think.
Yep.
Where's Chris? Chris, were you a school teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I'll get the edit from her.
Chris is the one that I always say, corrects me for my C's in English in high school.
There you go. At their February 6th and 17th deliberative sessions. Okay. So Bill, do you want to just direct me to the very next change then?
Yep, the next word, the next sentence, to start the next sentence, the school recommendations, it's John Stark School.
Got it.
Recommendations are,
John
just
Stark
John Stark School.
Yep, got that.
And then in the next sentence, it says, while the school articles are subject to change, you say, while the John Stark articles are subject to change.
We could take out school to just have less text.
Okay. Hey, that sounds good.
Chris, are you watching?
Oh, yeah.
Good? Okay.
While the John Stark articles, yes, there you go.
All right.
And I think that's all I showed as a change.
Well, that's all I heard, but again, I'm a visual person, so I want to make sure we don't miss anything that you put in there.
I was concerned, as Naomi said, that people don't read to the bottom of anything. So my changes were largely to just compress a little bit, but not change anything of the meaning. So I took out no matter how we vote and made that a new paragraph. And then I said, where's property taxes may potentially increase, because that it is a potential increase.
So
I took
Chris,
out no
if I
matter
follow
how,
you-
I took out that phrase.
Yeah, so you wanted it, your suggestion, because I can go backwards, people. I can just
Yeah, and basically what that does, and what Tom can say this, he taught school also, students skim. So I want the most important word to be the first word in the paragraph, and that's where's property taxes. And then I said mandated, let's see, where is it? Mandated school and town costs to fund pensions.
Whereabouts is that, Chris?
Next sentence.
This sentence here?
Yeah, where it said increased.
No, so sentence above, it's the second
sorry.
sentence in
Yeah.
that paragraph.
Yeah,
So you want to change
Mandated.
that to mandated?
yeah. School and town costs to fund pensions. So that lets them know that it's in the default budget also. combined with projected reduced revenues, place an increased demand on taxes. Those were the only real big deal changes. I flipped the order of 2 sentences and that was it. But I wanted people to see what we want them to know. I wanted it to jump out.
Does anybody have any issues with Chris's suggestions or concerns or? I like to split the paragraph up because I'm a skimmer.
Can
And
we also, like, something that's always kind of bothered me, the following table, can we just make that a new paragraph too? So that so if somebody's just scanning the
Yeah.
table, they know what the table is?
yes,
Mhm.
good idea. And what I did, I flipped 2 sentences where it says if revenues exceed projections. I put that after budgets are conservative. So it said, if revenues exceed projections, the tax impact will be reduced. Therefore, the tax impact projections present a worst case scenario. I thought the logic was better in that sequence, but I might not, you might not care. So anyway, that was it.
Well, Chris, why don't
I agree
just,
with that logic.
yeah, let me just cut it and tell me where it would go. We'll take a look at it. I cut it
Okay.
out.
So after the budgets are conservative, it would say, if revenues exceed projections, the tax impact will be reduced.
I'm sorry, which paragraph?
So just up
Conservative
one.
and therefore.
Which
Right after-
paragraph?
Right after the word conservative.
It's second
Before
paragraph,
therefore.
4th line
Thank-
down.
Thank you, Megan. 1, 2, 3.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah,
Here?
put it after conservative. Bingo.
So here,
Yep. And then you've got it, because then it says therefore the tax impact. That was the flip.
anybody have an issue with that? It doesn't sound incorrect to me. I mean, it sounds appropriate.
Mhm.
Everybody good?
I'm
Yes.
good.
Glad to be in company of all these school teachers, actually. All right. So we're good on this, and obviously, I can send this to Bill, but do we, as far as the tax table, are we all on the same page? Because I know, Bill, you're gonna put some asterisks in somewhere and,
Yeah.
Can we just go back for a second?
oh, sure.
Does anybody, I get what Chris is doing and I completely agree, but in addition, the Board of Selectmen, having the therefore sentence in between those two sentences, it doesn't flow correctly to me now. Does that therefore actually have to go below that? I don't know. Is it the last sentence? If I'm wrong, it's fine, but I read it quickly.
No,
and I was
you're
like,
right. You're
That,
so
that
totally
goes,
right.
yeah, in my recommendation, Bill used the wording pretty much as I suggested, which starts with in addition. But I did choose for it to come after the word conservative, but now it would come after the word reduced. I think
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, Megan. It fits better there. So
Hey.
if you took the next 2 sentences,
Tom,
yes,
what you need to do is to take the therefore sentence and put it at the end of the paragraph, and then everything works.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
yeah,
Beautiful.
that's right. Instead of, move the little stuff instead of the big, longer period.
Neil, you were a professor too, weren't you?
Only about,
I can't tell you that.
Well, he was a newspaper writer and he knows.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, the last sentence always gets cut. So let's put it down there and see what happens.
Okay, I'll just read the last 2 sentences. Also, any surplus in the Ware and John Stark school budgets automatically goes to offset taxes for the following year. These actions would significantly reduce the tax impact outlined below. Therefore, the tax impact projections present a worst case scenario for tax increases.
That flows well, seriously.
You guys are a good team. I had nothing to do with it. All right, so sorry, I think I moved too quick sooner. Do we want to take a quick run through? Anybody want to double check that before I do that? I see.
Yeah, there's one issue, 6th line down, first paragraph. deliberative sessions, isn't that supposed to be singular? And didn't Bill want to put in a date, April 5th or something?
Well,
I
it's
think-
actually, it's plural. So I'll just say it is
Yeah,
plural
yeah.
because it's the
Yeah,
6th and
deliberative
17th
session, singular, yeah.
at their deliberative session.
That's correct, Tom. One line down, the next word sessions, third word in on the 6th line down.
Right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If we just put the date on the next page where the chart is, and also because we're going to put the warrant article on the next page, I don't think we have to put it in this.
That's fine, one way or another.
So if we take that out, we're really just taking this out. It says at their deliberative sessions, excuse me, taking this out. Is
You
that
don't
what
want to
you're
take that out.
No, no, no. The date that for the upcoming John Stark, that's all. Leave this one alone.
It's fine just the way it is, Tom.
Good job.
Okay.
Save.
Oh, yes, auto save on. Great. It's saved somewhere. It says it's saved, but thank you for that.
Somebody do a screenshot. We worked hard on this.
No, it's good. This is my work computer. Okay, so we're good with this. Then the only other thing is, I'll stop sharing so we don't distract. We have the tax table. Is anything fundamentally changed on that tax table, or are we pulling it off Megan's sheet? I mean, I'm okay with Bill putting the asterisks in it. We've agreed that we want to have the asterisks that talks about subject to change. And Eileen had said she had give a suggestion that just basically saying they could possibly change based on the information known at print. As far as I'm concerned, if it said something to that effect, I think we kind of all agreed.
Yeah, I think the thing on the table that might change is after the school deliberative session, based on what they do with their proposed budget. If our vote is different, then it will change our finance committee recommendations under where schools, it would go from 1055, for example, it would go to 1069 if we support, or it may not actually be 1069 because it'll come down a little bit with the 25,000 reduction. If we choose to vote and discuss and anything changes, it would change a little bit in that table. It would start changing the numbers on the far right, but those are all easy to figure out and at the, right when we do it.
Okay. So let me go to my list. Sorry, I'm looking for my list. I have too many notes up. So I think we're done with the preamble. The other agenda item was the 2 articles in regards to the counter arguments. And I am guilty of not being prepared and having that ready for me at this very moment. I was prepared with others, so I'm going to need to pull that up. Bill, would you mind pulling up? So James brought up the 2 articles. He actually had talked about this at the deliberative and asked or suggested that we do this, and then he sent an email note today. I'll go
Or
to the
4.
No, he said there's only 2 that are relative. He said there are 4 that fall into the category, but only 2 that we did not put a counter argument to. So
With all due respect to James, we had made a decision not to use his standard of 4 votes, but it was 7-6. Those we were going to do a minority report, but not on the others.
yeah, and I think it's a fair statement, Neil. And I think we should at least have a conversation to see if we did that equally across the board, because I'm not sure that we did, and I haven't looked at it. So if we could just kind of take a quick run through on that, because if we didn't do it for others and we did it for some, I think that may have been the point that he made. Megan, am I off on that?
We did. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Yes, that's his point, was that we did it for some, and that we should basically create a rule saying, well, we did it for this one, so we should do it for that one if the vote was basically the same. So like for
consistency purposes.
Yeah. So like we put the the minority for the full-time full-time building inspector, but like we didn't put it for the highway plow truck.
Yes, but please read what he said.
Actually, why don't
I'm sorry.
Neil, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. How about if I just read his, for the record anyway, I'll just read his whole
There you go.
email. And he realized he's not here, he can't vote, but I thought that what he said was going to be valuable. So I'll get right into it. Director Benji Knapp brought to our attention during the deliberative session that the Finance Committee has not been consistent providing a minority dissension opinion for articles. We did indicate in our discussions that we would provide the minority opinion where the vote was close, but did not really define what that meant. Article 9 is a particular concern since the vote was fairly even at 7-6, but we did not include the other side. So there was a point there. I suggest we only provide minority opinions for articles where there are 4 or more in the minority. That equates to roughly 1/3 of the committee that was in disagreement with the majority. While I do not wish to discount anybody's opinion, I think where the minority was only 3 or less do not require additional rebuttal. I count 4 articles that meet the criteria, 9, 10, 13, and 16. Articles 10 and 13 already have minority opinion, so we just need to address 9 and 16. Now he's getting into suggesting additional verbiage, so we can decide how we want to handle that because he's not here in the quorum. I'm kind of on the fence with that.
I'll just say that I think the 4 was a good number. We have done it in some others, and I think it is important in some of the others on the reasoning, on some of the raises, the reasons that the minority had cited. So I have no problem with it. And an operating budget, since I was in the majority on that, I'll let you guys come up with what language you want in there.
I say 5, not 4, as the number to include minority.
But then
I agree with that.
Okay.
Hey,
So-
come on, guys. This is political now.
Yeah.
Are you guys serious?
I don't know.
No, let's leave it the way it was.
Yeah, we have 2 big deals here that we have to look at, so let's go.
So if we could, let's just look, if nobody's opposed, let's just look at the wording for those 2. And we as a committee can make a decision on wording. Right? But what I do need, Megan, do you have the warrants handy?
Yeah, I do. I have them. So
I
you
don't
want to
have
just
them.
go down, you want to do like the first one and then we just kind of do a vote on if we want to update it with the minority, and then if we do, then we update it, and if we.
Do you want me to screen share it? I just need it and I don't have it handy with me. This is what I didn't have prepared.
I think we all have handouts from the meeting and from Bill sending stuff.
Oh, that's a good point. We're really just talking about
Yeah.
one sentence. So actually, Megan, so if you have it, I literally, it's on my other side of my desk. So if you don't mind reading it while I grab my package.
You're fine. You want me to read the actual article from the town, correct?
Yeah, so we can hear the,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So,
I meant the actual, just the blurbs, but if. people
okay,
want to read
that's
the
where I
whole
was
article,
confused.
okay.
I got it. All right. So, our blurb for Article 9, the operating budget, was not recommended 7-6. The committee does not support this article. The proposed budget is 4.4% higher than the current operating budget. The default budget is 2.3% higher than the current operating budget. This is an unusual tax year. A likely reduction in revenue coupled with increased contributions for pensions and healthcare premiums in both school and town budgets is projected to have a higher than normal increase in property taxes. For these reasons, the committee has tried to focus on the level of funding needed to maintain the level of services we currently provide while pausing proposed improvements. We also wanted to ensure there is no degradation in life-saving response services. The committee believes the default budget is adequate to meet these needs.
So can we reiterate what the vote? So the vote was to not recommend?
Seven to six, not recommended.
Because it didn't say it in James' email. I just want to make sure that we're all clear. So the concern is we don't have enough counter argument to support the close vote, which is that the minority believed or voted that we should support the town budget, correct?
Correct.
So then for the folks that voted to recommend, speak now. That's what James is suggesting. I would say if I was gonna, I actually thought the blurb was relatively neutral and not very far tilting. That's my honest opinion and why I didn't say anything when we wrote it. So I don't want to disagree with James, but I didn't think it was far tilted in one direction.
I'll
Thought it was
second,
fair.
I'll second that since I wrote it.
Good point. In all seriousness, guys, we don't have a lot to do. If you guys are, if nobody is opposed to the way it's written and has any comments, then I appreciate James's comment, but it really, unfortunately, is just him.
I think that the vote count being as close as it is says enough,
Yeah,
honestly, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
I think that's true in most cases. I think, the blurbs give a reasoning behind it, but when a person looks at 13-0 or 7-6, they certainly can interpret it themselves as far as the strength of the commitment on that vote.
I was looking to try to figure out why we voted as we did, and it seems like the only changes between the default and the proposed had to do with wage adjustments that were made in 2020 that couldn't be carried over. Am I correct?
Well, Chris, I want to be careful here. I don't know. I just want to say, I don't want to reopen debate, and I don't think it's an unreasonable question, but let's.
No, but there was nothing else that was really that different between the two budgets.
I voted in,
but the police department budget had some new equipment in there.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna get in the weeds here real quick, I think.
Yeah, and then the DPW was adding some things, and there was other things other than that.
Rails, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, things start popping up. And that's where we get into, I think, where we were saying, hey, we're focused on life-saving services. We don't want to cut those. And when we look at maintaining what we have in, as opposed to improvements, we're kind of saying, well, we're going to hold off on the improvements. That's kind of why I said that in there.
I'm not suggesting a change to the wording, but just I voted in the minority here. And the reason was because I thought there was a small enough difference between the default and the proposed to not warrant voting down the proposed budget. That was my reasoning.
Do you want a sentence to that effect?
I don't know if it's necessary. I agree with what was it Lear, I believe, who was saying that the numbers kind of tell a story themselves, this 7-6. And we could put any number of contrasting opinions there, and probably people wouldn't go beyond the 7-6 before they made up their mind.
Hmm.
Sounds like we're ready to move forward. Yes?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so let's just talk about 16 then, because 16 is the highway plow truck. And so it kind of looked like everybody was watching. And this is an article that I felt the need to represent the finance committee and explain how this was, it was a difficult article for us because I don't think anybody disagreed with the need. It was more of a financial decision. And so I did commit to Benji that we would talk about this on record and see if we wanted to add wording. So if we could, maybe if Megan wouldn't mind reading our blurb, that would be great.
You can do that. So it's Article 16, highway plow truck. Not recommended, 8-5. The committee does not support this article. While the committee supports a planned replacement program of one plow truck per year, it felt a pause was appropriate this year due to other higher priority needs and the potential for higher taxes impacted by reduced revenue streams. The committee anticipates resuming the replacement program next year, noting the fleet has 8 trucks over 12 years. Or 12 years old, sorry.
Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Uh, I just made a mental note that originally, before we changed it our last meeting, we had another sentence in there which would have further, I think, tilted it the way Benji wants it. I said we were still recovering from 6 years of no purchases between 2009 and 2014. And it could say we don't want to return to that.
So
But-
how about if we said, I'm sorry, Bill, you still talking?
No, go ahead. I'm done.
How about if we included some of that and just acknowledge that, what was I thinking here? Basically recognize that previous history prevented us from buying trucks for 6 years, and recognize, what do we want to say? We're risk managing this. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. That's all. If we're making the recommendation, this is risk management, because the reality is the truck could go down. Like, I know all about those Volvos and what's going on, but I voted against this. So
Tom,
What if we said, if the truck in this article, if the truck to be replaced by this article becomes inoperable, it cannot be repaired and will be taken off the road. He made a point of that, I think.
you want to be careful. I would just say, I'm a mechanical guy. You want to be very careful with that. I see your
Okay,
point,
let's-
Chris, but that's
Let's
very
do some
definitive.
good language then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would stick with facts, not speculation. And what I mean by that is, if we say that the truck being replaced is over 20 years old, well, that's a fact, if that is the case. But if we speculate that it could go down, then it's and be taken out of service, we don't know that. So I think there's a difference between.
Well, he did say that no mechanics will work on it anymore and there aren't any parts. So we need some language that's not too long.
Well,
Yeah,
he also said they spent $6,000 repairing it last year. So I don't know what changed magically.
Let's let Neil was trying to talk. He hasn't got to speak yet. So we could let Neil.
I think if we add one sentence that talks about the age of that truck, it's 19 years, I think. Voters should know, I would say voters should know that the truck to be proposed for replacement is 19 years old.
I think it's newer than that, but I'll check.
It's a good point, though. That is part of a counter argument.
Yes, it's a
I
fact.
agree that would be a good
So
sentence.
if they say they're replacing, sorry to interrupt you, Tom,
No problem.
a 2004 Volvo six-wheeler.
Okay. So here's what I know about Volvo, and I won't get deep on this, guys. Volvos in particular, I validated this outside of our town discussions, in particular have very heavy electrical challenges. So what was talked about last year, it's actually true. There are mechanics that will work on them, but there is a limitation to the work that they can be done. So I think Neil's suggestion is a good suggestion. And if you guys felt very strongly, I don't think it would be an issue to add wording that states significant challenges getting repair work done on that particular brand. I mean, that's factual.
Yeah, let's do
That's as
it.
far as I would even go.
Yeah, but unless you start adding quite a bit more explaining which truck is going to be replaced, that it is a 2004 Volvo, et cetera, I don't know that you're adding much to voters, and I think it's going to be somewhat confusing, but I'd be pleased to
Oh,
listen
no,
to
Neil,
whatever
I'm saying-
language you have.
I'm saying use your idea in the 2004. And if you wanted to, you could add something about the challenges.
No,
That's all.
This voters should know that this vehicle will replace a 2004, 2012, whatever it was, Volvo.
That incurred over $6,000 of repairs last year.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think. Well, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sounds good.
I'm just letting Bill make sure he's good.
I was just jotting some stuff down in it.
So Bill, I think, did you hear what it was Neil's suggestion?
Change the
Voters-
last, yeah, add a last sentence that says the truck to be replaced is a 2004 Volvo that incurred over $6,000 in repairs last year.
That's it.
Thumbs up.
Give thumbs up. Nobody opposed.
The only place we heard that 6,000 was at deliberative. I think everybody heard it, so we'll sign it.
I heard it in the back room when I went to the bathroom too, just for the record. I'm not even joking.
It's in my notes. I wrote it down.
Okay. So I think we've really got two, Megan, we got two other pieces of business, one old and then coming to, do we need to finish off the discussion about the meeting for Wednesday evening after deliberative? I mean, we're in I don't think we finalized that, which is roughly at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night, right before my vacation. We're gonna have tentatively a finance committee meeting just to address any potential changes for the Ware School District deliberative articles or articles that might have been changed.
Correct.
What are we gonna do if that turns into a circus and runs and runs and runs? That's my concern.
I think that based on the way that we have worked so well together the last few meetings, or the whole entire, this is the season, whatever this is. I would think that that's not going to happen.
Oh, no,
I
I'm
would
not talking
hope.
about us.
Are you talking about the school
I'm
board?
Oh, are you
talking
talking about the
school.
school? I thought you were talking about
Yeah.
our meeting. I was like, what is he?
No, you guys behave well. No. It's
So far,
Hey, guys, the school district meeting you just told us is not going to be live streamed.
Correct.
yeah, we're gonna be there.
There will be 6 people there, the school board, plus a lawyer, the moderator, and 1 or 2 finance committee members, and maybe somebody who didn't have very much to do that night and was interested in breaking quarantine. And that's it. There isn't going to be any discussion. Come on, this will be a 5-minute meeting.
Oh, God, I hope you're right, Neil.
It sounds like.
There
that
was a
would be
couple
the
of years
same-
ago, it wasn't.
Probably the same number that would have been there on the 3rd.
That was a good one, Tom.
Okay, so that meeting's at what time? 7 o'clock?
Yes.
So if it's at 7 o'clock, there's what, 3, is it 3 articles? I don't have it in front of me. I mean,
Yes.
2
yeah,
articles, right?
two
That
articles.
meeting could be over in an hour. The one I went to last year was over in an hour. So the problem is we're making a tentative meeting for 9 o'clock, and there is a chance, to Neil's point, that we'll be sitting on our butts for an hour.
Yep.
Do we do anything about it? I'm really just open to suggestions here.
Oh,
What
we've got
you can
something
do-
from Eileen in the chat. Let's see what she says.
For the record, I think it was discussed.
Laugh out loud. For the record, I think there will be discussion.
One thing you can do is to not have a specific time, but to say at the conclusion of this, our meeting time will be at the conclusion of the Ware School District deliberative session. That means all of us need, so to speak, to be on Zoom. Naomi will turn on Zoom at 7 or 7:30, and all of us will tune in as soon as the meeting is over. There we go.
Did you see Naomi holding her head in her hands as Neil?
On my screen, her head is so low that you can just about see her hair.
I'm at this point, I'm up for anything. I'm not going anywhere. Maybe, why don't we do this? How about if we just compromise, and because we have to give notice that we're having the meeting. Why don't we call it a tentative 8:30?
Yep.
It was subject to change based on the completion of the school deliberative. Does that concern anybody?
But
If-
how do we
if
know
by-
when the school
Tom?
deliberative is over?
Yeah, so 15 minutes. So we could just say with 15 minutes upon the conclusion. But no one's really, no one's gonna know because it's not gonna be streamed. That
That's
doesn't work.
what I said.
Yeah.
Oh,
My,
sorry, Gary, I didn't hear you.
So whoever goes, send an email to the group.
I can send an email at the conclusion of the meeting saying the meeting is over. Meet us on Zoom in 15 minutes. I mean, for the public, like if somebody really wanted to see us, like I mean,
We're
it's
doing the
there, it's
best we can.
recorded.
Wait a second, guys. I thought we had to be open to the public. I didn't think that was a choice.
Oh, we do. We're just talking about how much can we make it available advance notice when we're doing it at the 11th hour. That's really all it is, Neil. We'll be as public as we can be.
Yeah, it'll be there, but meaning like somebody could have the link, but if they click on it at 8:30, we may not be here. If they click on it at 8:45, we may be here. That's more we're talking about. They'll have access to it. We just may not be here yet.
Got it.
Yeah,
That's
so
okay.
we got a note from Naomi, and 8:30 would be possible because she has to have a time to say to
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yes.
And we'll just hang out until we get a quorum.
Okay, so 8:30 is the time, and we call it a tentative meeting for the public in case we don't have to have it. Does that sound right? I don't know
No,
when
No,
you,
No,
we
I
have
don't understand.
minutes.
you have the meeting, and if you don't need the meeting, you adjourn it, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
There you
oh,
go.
We have
open it and adjourn it?
minutes
Okay,
to approve.
fair enough. Okay, so are we clear? We're having it at 8:30, and we're going to put a note on that notice, Naomi, that says subject to 15 minutes following the conclusion of the Ware School deliberative. I believe that's what we all just agreed on.
Yep.
Okay,
And do we want me to send out an email when we're leaving deliberative, letting everybody know it's done, or?
Would
Yeah.
you?
Yes.
Yeah, I can. Yep.
okay.
Megan, can you
Um,
include me on the email?
I always do.
Where's,
No, just so that, because I don't think that I'll be there, but
Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
thank you.
okay,
If Naomi's not going to be there, that reduces the number by 1.
Well, who lets us in? That's all we need to know.
there'll be an overflow room, Neil.
Okay, Tom, thanks.
Plenty of room. Okay, so I really just have one order of business before I get to that final order. Is anybody have anything else to add or ask before we get to that? All right, so I need to just close this out, which is, no, I know you guys don't want to talk about it, but the right to know request for the public record. The last request was to clarify, we're going back a ways, which is to respond to the right to know request, respond directly to Leah, whether or not you had communications relative to the specifics of that right to know request. If you did, to forward them. If you did not, please respond. I'm going to just read for the record who responded and what. The people that responded was Tom with no communications, was Tom Downing, Tom Clow, James Jury, Nicole Herbster, I messed up her name, Rachel Sisto, Megan Thelen, Leah, why can't I remember your last name?
Borla.
Oh my God, Leah Borla. Chris Haig, Tammy Hagman, Bill Anderson, and Gary Evans. But I will say that Chris did forward communications already, as did Tom. And then there were 2 no responses, which was Neil Kirk and Dennis Auburn. And that's that. So I'm about to close the meeting. I just want to go around one last time. Nothing, if there's nothing else.
So I'll take these changes. You're gonna email me the,
As soon as I get off,
I'll clean them up and put them out. And so we say, okay, here's where we are going into the school deliberative.
yeah. And you'll just email it to everybody when that's good.
Yep.
And is there also a way for us to see like the way the tax impact thing is gonna look like? Like we have the last one, like from last year and stuff, but since we're gonna meet on Wednesday night, is there a way for you to do that, Bill, or a way for Naomi to help?
You know, I kind of just put it into the Word format. That's what I did here on the second page. And I kind of relied on Naomi to put it in the way she wants it in the document with the numbers there. Is that okay, Naomi?
So Megan, I can take the numbers and punch it in that, just because I have the chart formatted for that size.
There you
So
go.
I'd be happy to just punch in your numbers for you.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, thank you
Yes, thank you.
for hanging in there with all of this verbiage. For
Yeah, very much appreciated.
Oh, that's fun. It's like doing
Well,
my,
and thank you, Tom and Megan, for herding cats. You did a good job with us.
Thank you. I actually, honestly, Megan and I were talking offline, and I think the civility of the committee was pretty good this year. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I have no complaints. I think you guys did a great job. And I would say to Neil, when I accepted the nomination, you said to me something about the challenge of being chair. It's definitely a challenge to keep track and of even the conversation. You guys have done a really good job of keeping me up, because managing the meeting is a bit of a distraction. So thank you all for doing that and the patience. All right, with that, I'm going to head and close the meeting. It is 8:22 on February 11th. Everybody have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
you.